Hey everybody, it's me Margaret, sharing with you my new obsession, which is not buying any clothes for this season. I am upcycling everything. It's either going to be clothes that I already own or clothes that I have purchased from Goodwill, and I have had the best time so far. One of the things I've been doing a lot of is going through my closet and taking those clothes, like a shirt that's too long. I'm petite. Most clothes that I buy in regular, they're just too long, including little t-shirts or whatever. So I've just been pulling them out and hemming them all, and it's like, yay, because it completely transforms the shirt when it hangs in the right place. And another thing I'm doing is upcycling, which is the example that you see here today, is that this shirt was upcycled from a regular blue shirt. Here's the before. And here's the after, and I really am pleased with the way it turned out. The only thing that really bugs me are the darts. I could have improved on those, but we'll know for next time. Now, the story of this shirt is that it once belonged to my oldest son, who then passed it down to my younger son, who of course outgrew it overnight, and it was perfectly good dress shirt. And I thought, well, you know what? Let me see what I can do with it, as I was finally cleaning his closet out. So I chose the help of a pattern. So I chose this view on this pattern. I got it back in 2016, and it's all for wovens, and I didn't think I had enough fabric to have sleeves on it. So I said, well, let me just try my hand at this. So as I was looking at it, and I learned from Lindsay Inside the Hem on YouTube that often pattern companies these days are taking shortcuts. They merely leave the sleeves off and call it a sleeveless top. See how it's just, square? Well, in order to make a sleeveless top look right, it really needs to curve in a little bit. It looks like it just doesn't fit. And this is all new information to me. I've made it, I've put it on, different things like that. And I'm like, what the heck? Why does this look so weird? Well, now I know. So what I did was look through my pattern stash, and I found this old pattern, and I cannot find a date on it anywhere, but it does say simplicity.com, so I know that it's before. It has to be within the internet. My gut tells me it's somewhere in the 90s. Okay, so here the top looks better. Let's see if we can compare these. You see how they're scooped out like that on that sort of tank? That's what needs to happen. Even if it's just called a sleeveless top, you still need to have some sort of scooping in there. Clearly we wouldn't call that a tank, we would call it a sleeveless top, but it still needs some little scooping. It doesn't need to extend all the way to that shoulder edge, that shoulder line right there. So I went fishing through this pattern, and I found these facing pieces, and I traced out my size on these facing pieces. That way I could actually, so here's the neck, I wrote it right there, and here's the underarm. That way I could actually put it on the other pattern piece and scoop out that side so that I could have the proper, shoulder there on a sleeveless top. Now, I could have cut these pattern pieces, but I was a little unsure at the time if I had chosen the right size, which I chose the smallest size here, and I have a hard time believing that I am the smallest size, but apparently that is the case because it fits just fine. So now I'll add this to my sloper arsenal, and when I need to, scoop out a sleeve area there, then I'll have it handy that I could just lay it on top of the other pattern. So let's look at what other things that I changed about this top besides the arm scoops right there. I did not do the vents. I generally don't like vents on the side. Usually they're there because people are more curvy. I'm kind of boxy, so I really don't have a need for them. So if I do them, it's just because I like it, and I'll put it there for, for aesthetic purposes, I suppose. But it was just easier not to put it, so I didn't put it. Another thing that I did is I top stitched here. They usually don't call for that, but I think it's so important. I think it adds a real finished look. It takes away some of the homemade look to put that top stitching there. Ignore that. That's some air soluble marker that I use. It helps me see where to pivot. It also keeps your facing laying down flat. Even though I did understitch, I like to top stitch as well because it keeps my facing in place. And speaking of facings, this pattern called for facings in the armhole, and you know, I just don't like those. I find them uncomfortable and I don't like the way it looks. So I used some bias tape, and I think it looks so much better to have that nice clean stitching right there. I don't know, I just like it, so I used bias tape. Now, interesting little tidbit about that bias tape. So in my quest to buy as little as possible, I'm reading through my stash and I found this. Now this happened to be something that my mother bought years ago. And keep in mind that my mother was the same age as all my friends' grandmothers. As a matter of fact, this October she will have been 100 years old. So when did she buy this? I have no earthly idea. I love that it was 19 cents. I love that it says over here that it's a new, easier to use and finer fabric with much more threads per square inch, means less show through with a nicer look. That's crazy phrasing. I especially loved this little tidbit here. Does your child sew? Send 3 labels and 15 cents to cover postage and handling for a generous package of clippings of Wright's trims suitable for trimming doll clothes. What an excellent idea. So they were doing some sustainable stuff back then. Of course, you know, World War II, that was all about mend and, how did it go? Make, do, and mend. So here on the back we have a little hemming a straight skirt, some tips here on how one would use this. However, I'm not sure this is the method that I would use to apply it to a hem of a skirt. Here they apply it, then they trim, and then they flip it up and sew it with their hand. I don't think I would do it that way. I think I would cut it to where I needed to, sew the end on with the machine, then flip it up and hem however I want to. But I really got a kick out of that, so much so that I think I may hang on to this. If I have, and I know I've got more stuff in there, and it might be kind of fun to frame it. We'll see. Now, I have always been a person who doesn't like waste, mainly because I don't like to know that I've spent money that I'm not using efficiently. You know what I'm talking about? Also, there's the recycling issue for the environment. So you might be looking at this and you could say, yeah, but you wasted all the sleeves and everything. No, I didn't. And I have a tutorial coming up for the wine bottle cover that I made out of the sleeves. And then this collar happens to fit Bentley, my dog. And so I'm thinking about a way that I could maybe elasticize this. And I've seen some on Pinterest that look like little dog collars that could be really fun on there. So I've saved this one to see what I can do. So I have used a lot more of it than I thought. Now, even though I've always been very careful about, you know, waste and things like that, I had no earthly idea the magnitude that the fashion industry has on the environment and, you know, social implications as well. So as I look in here and see the tag, this shirt happened to be made in Bangladesh, and that was a whole other aspect of this project for me, was that I thought there was somebody in Bangladesh whose hands worked hard to make this, and then we turn around and sell it for nothing, and then we just toss it out. You know, yeah, we recycle it by donating it to hopefully someone who can use it. But if you saw this documentary on Netflix, you could see the landfills in these third world countries who are just not outfitted with ways to distribute the clothing to those who need it. They literally oftentimes go stomping through these mountains of clothes just thrown out in the landfill. So anyway, it was nice for me to, you know, say a little prayer for the person who did this. It kind of makes me think about our term in the knitting community called the knit-worthy people. We don't like to knit things and give them to those who don't value knitting, right? Because a lot of care and time and work and expense goes into that. And so, you know, it only makes sense that we want to give it to a knit-worthy person. And so yet, I kind of tend to think that for this person here in Bangladesh, We're not very sew worthy at all over here in America, the way we don't, respect their hard work. But that's a social issue for another day, and you are free to look at that on your own. I'll link the name of the documentary in the description box below. But I didn't mean to get all Debbie Downer on you. I just was showing you what my motivation was to start this creative process, and I've been having the best time doing it. I love going in my Goodwill and searching out. And the fabrics that you can find are so awesome. And here's the best part is this was practice for me. I learned fitting techniques that I've been studying about. I tried a few new things that I had never done before. And it was so nice to know that if I screwed it up, I didn't waste all that terrific fabric that I just bought at the fabric store, right? So it was a fun way to practice. It's also a great way to just find raw materials for anything that you want to make. Fabrics that you wouldn't want to normally spend money on, you've got it hanging right there in the form of another garment that you can see that could be something else. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of fun. So I'm going to be doing more of this, and I'll have it labeled Sheepishly Sewing for those of you who do not want to share in on this sewing stuff. But I hope you'll join me even if you've never sewn anything before and you don't have any interest in learning sewing. You never know what might spark your interest to a new craft that you might want to pick up. So who knows? Thanks for watching. Talk soon. Bye. Oh, and if you want to see some masters of refashion, I'm going to link to a couple of impressive channels in the description box below. Now, I admit that I could never pull off their style creations, but I still love to watch them work. They are brilliant. Have fun.